Salazar from the University of Leuven, and together with Isabelle Rivoal from here, who is also organizing the conference, we are very glad to present you what at the EASA is usually one of the most exciting panels. It's the Young Scholars Forum, and to people who actually don't know what the Young Scholars Forum is all about, it's basically the idea that plenaries should not be dominated by established scholars, because actually the most innovating and the most interesting thinking in most disciplines, including anthropology, is actually being done by the hardworking graduate students and recently graduated PhDs. So this is exactly the purpose of the Young Scholars Forum, and this year is certainly not different. So without further ado, I think we will get started. We will have a short introduction that sets the scene. Then we'll have 3 speakers, and we have Danny Miller as a discussant. And then we hope that there will be plenty of time also for an engaging exchange of ideas and discussion afterwards. So the Young Scholars Forum this year is entitled Contemporary Ethnographic Practice and the Value of Serendipity. Serendipity, the art of making an unsought finding as juxtaposed to purposeful discovery by experiment or retrospective prophecy, is a much sought-after ideal in scientific practice. In anthropology, serendipity, together with reflexivity and openness, is widely accepted as a key characteristic and strength of the ethnographic method. The ideal fieldwork is often nostalgically envisioned as embracing serendipity, or at least the unpredictable, with low levels of advanced planning, no fixed timetable, and an openness to change of research plan or itinerary. The extent to which ethnographers can and should conform to this ideal, however, is another matter. There has always been some tendency in anthropology for the field to shape the project, rather than the other way around. Accidental or fortunate discoveries have been intimately bound up with innovation in anthropology and beyond. Doctoral students in anthropology, who engage in fieldwork as an almost mandatory rite of passage, are faced with a dilemma. On the one hand, there is the expectation to conform to the almost mythical image of the lone fieldworker who stumbles upon people or places that capture their anthropological imagination. On the other hand, their fieldwork experience is structurally limited in time, in resources, and in objectives, linked to an increasing number of rules set by funding agencies, government institutions, universities, or other external agents. Under such conditions, serendipity is not impossible, but greatly reduced to mere chance. Anthropologists, like other researchers, need to react creatively to different levels of constraints, keeping in mind that what is valued in ethnographic practice is not the same for all the stakeholders involved. The way in which scientific practice in general is evolving is certainly not making things any easier. The contemporary socio-political and economic context is shaping science and knowledge production, inducing often undesired transformations in how academics nowadays have to work. Questions about how quickly science can produce new knowledge and innovation have become a widely acknowledged concern among scholars. The recent slow science initiatives developed as a critique that revolves around the managerial and entrepreneurial performance culture that pervades the academic landscape today. Compared to other disciplines, anthropology is a relatively slow science. One does not necessarily know which questions to ask, and sometimes finds, after extended periods of work, of having been asking the wrong questions all along. Critical questions raised by ethnographic research erode conventional assumptions, altering the direction of the work that follows. In other words, slow science is first of all a form of slow thinking, attempting to stay with phenomena and actors. Not surprisingly, anthropologists were among those who have taken the lead in developing slow science ideas and action strategies. Slow science, or a wandering journey towards exploration. The call for more serendipity in the form of a nomadic turn has recently been formulated by some of our colleagues. Fieldwork, which used to be seen as a quest for alternative social and cultural cosmologies, is being turned into a journey for exploring unexplored issues. The focus of our knowledge seems to be shifting, raising new questions about what it is that anthropology is all about.
And there are 3 lines we suggest that need particular scrutiny. The first one we have termed the anthropologist as a new nomad. If we take a close look at what is advocated by those who promote the nomadic turn, we find that the question at stake is less a matter of fieldwork method than a question of objects and relevant questions for investigation. The nomad ethnographer is not said to decipher cultures or cosmology or alterities anymore. Of course, it is not said that cultures or cosmologies or alternate ways of inhabiting the world are not of interest for anthropological quest anymore. But these are no more the obvious and definite horizons for the discipline. What is at stake behind the urge for a renewed explorational disposition is a journey out of the unidimensional realities of possibly raise new issues, leading to alternative realities. This project certainly calls for a disentanglement from the social-cultural stances which have been the bedrock of anthropology to embrace a serendipitous attitude closer to the task Deleuze and Guattari have set in the context of philosophy, namely to create concepts and explain universals. The second point revolves around the ambiguity of the anthropologist as an artist or an activist, and whether we conceive ourselves as creators or critics. Is nomadic anthropology challenging the anthropologist as an expert of culture, a broker, or a go-between? What kind of knowledge are anthropologists producing when they are accounting for what is happening here and now, from one local reality or another? How do they handle the qualitative distance necessary to do research as opposed to produce expertise? Is serendipity a new word for creativity in social sciences? And is it a panacea to avoid the pitfall of ethnographies referred to as mere contemporary contextualization for events? When is cultural expertise blurring the line between anthropologists and journalists, or anthropologists and activists? What have we now? And this would be the third point. Multiple realities and multiple methodologies? It seems the time has arrived to start engaging the unity of the discipline if we give up the motto, any object can be envisioned anthropologically. Because anthropology is a matter of methodology. If creativity is deemed to be the new anthropological horizon, the methodological unity of the anthropological project is challenged. Successful ethnography used to rely on the ethnographer's ability to be part of the social, to be observed, which suppose to develop relational skills and interests at playing different roles. Lately, the aesthetical stance has gained power among ethnographers aiming at using their imagination as much as their background training for distance observation. Fieldwork had become a mise en scène, Georges Marcus said. Nothing but a ready-made meta-method which only serves at enhancing the solidarity of a profession who idealizes itself through an idealized practice. Fabian echoes the charge against the fieldwork as a meta-method, offering new ways to save the specificity of anthropology. It is time for anthropologists to shift from the idealization of fieldwork and its own kind of serendipity, meaning, in this case, time to carve out social relation, to soak in culture, and learn to act accordingly, toward a common way of problematizing the inquiry and conceptualizing its subject with another kind of serendipity, whereby serendipity has to be conceptualized as part of the experimentation and used and manipulated as a tool for research and not as a mere conception of how the observation should unfold.
So, is there a future for exploring exciting new horizons in anthropology? While recognizing the increasing external pressures, good ethnographic work can and should never be completely orderly. Anthropologists, whether they are seasoned seniors or freshly minted graduates, should take their time to engage with research questions that they are really interested in. We should, as much as possible, resist jumping through the type of managerial hoops that demand mere quantitative productivity. Public expectations of quick fixes to major issues through scientific breakthroughs must be undone. This is an important message in these times of crisis and uncertainty, which in and of themselves offer unique opportunities for serendipity. Scientific inquiry in general is necessarily a slow, methodological and thoughtful process, one that is directed at the solution of deeper, more troubling, and yet less visible paradoxes and contradictions. This year's young scholars will certainly give us some food for thought. And having said that, we will move immediately to the first presentation. So we welcome on the stage Stéphane Lecourant from Paris Nanterre La Défense, who will be talking on Beyond Anxiety and Disquiet, Time for Uncertainty.